Hello everyone, my name is Lime, and this is Link's Awakening Any Percent, completed in 58 minutes. So the run starts out pretty quickly here. There isn't a very long intro or anything. You've got this short little house area, and then you're into the action. Terran's gonna give you the shield, and we're gonna be on our way. So the beginning of this run is pretty similar to how a fast, casual playthrough might go for this first little minute while we go to grab the sword. So I'm going to start by sort of introducing Any Percent. For those of you who aren't very familiar with speedruns in general, Any Percent just means completing the game in any percentage. It's basically a speedrun category with no restrictions, where the goal is to just beat the game as fast as you can. So this is the fastest you will be able to see Link's Awakening completed. Sort of the unique thing about Link's Awakening is that despite being a game that was released in late 2019, so it was released very recently, it's actually quite a broken game. There are a ton of glitches and techniques and skips that we use to make the run shorter. For a little bit of context, the current glitchless world record is about 1 hour 38 minutes and I think 20 seconds-ish. So this is about 40 minutes of time save, which is like a 60% cut of the game. And obviously even the glitchless run does some techniques that allow it to skip some things too. Or maybe not so obviously. But yeah, I mean, it's quite a quick romp through this game. So like I said earlier, there aren't really many skips in the beginning portion of this run. Our main goal is going to be to beat Dungeon 1 as fast as possible. Because we need to get all of the instruments from each dungeon in order to beat the game. And also Dungeon 1 has the feather, which is super useful, as you'll see later. So we're just going to grab the mushroom, deliver it to the witch. She's going to give us some funky powder, and we're going to use that on Terran, the guy who was in the house earlier, who magically transformed into a Tanuki. But yeah, because the beginning of this run doesn't have a ton of intense tricks for the first 9 minutes or so, 10 minutes, a big part of the run is little movement optimizations like you just saw there. That was a recoil boost. There are two sort of techniques that I like to use besides just taking really good lines, and those are recoil boosts and damage boosts. When Link gets hit by an enemy, or something that hurts him, like a spear or whatever, Link's speed is increased while he takes sort of recoil from that damage. And so, getting hit by the Moblin spears, if you can manipulate them correctly, actually saves you a decent bit of time if you can get a lot of those damage boosts. Additionally, there's also recoil boosting. Some enemies, particularly the Sword and Shield Moblins, give Link recoil when he hits them with his sword. And so, you saw that the first time I went through on that Sword and Shield Moblin, and I actually like to do it again, but he kind of trolled me and decided to walk around in a circle instead. But yeah, the movement in this game is actually deceptively deep. For instance, I mean, there are some obvious things and obvious, like, principles that you want to follow. Like, you want to avoid slopes when you're going up them, you want to stay on slopes when you're going down them, because they decrease and increase Link's speed, respectively. And then there's the damage boost stuff, and even taking good lines in general is pretty tough, and you also have to learn the enemy patterns. So like I know that when I hit that Moblin, he'll be in the perfect position to give me a damage boost there. So some of it also just comes down to experience and learning and noticing these patterns as you see them. So now that we have the tail key, we're going to be heading to Dungeon 1 immediately. Dungeon 1 is actually a pretty cool dungeon. It's the only dungeon in the game that doesn't have any huge skip in it, which is fine because it's a short enough dungeon as it is. Because it's so short, I think because it's so short is why we haven't really been able to find any skips, because even if we do find anything, it would be hard for it to actually be worth it. So one little optimization here is you can just sort of walk past that gel if he isn't aggravated. Sometimes he wants to attack you right away, and so you can't do that. I do a little damage boost there because it allows me to get through the mini Moldorm there. So that mini Moldorm is quite a troll, and I found that having the iframes makes it quite a bit easier. We do 3 slashes here to pass this spark, and then we can take the underside. Oh, I was actually able to avoid the gel kills there. That's really good. So this D1's going well so far. Next up is an animation cancel. So we set up these spinies in such a way, and then I waste just enough time when I'm exiting the room to overlap the cutscene of the stairs forming with the screen transition. I don't think it's frame perfect. In fact, I think it actually has quite a bit of leniency. But you have to hold shield for a certain amount of time when you're leaving the room there, and you'll be able to get it. And now we also get to show off the technique of auto-loading, which is simply just loading your autosave. In dungeons, it sends you back to where you first entered the dungeon, which is an important clarification. Not just the entrance, it's whichever entrance you specifically entered in. And I'll touch on that later, once we get back to it. But yeah, the rest of Dungeon 1 is pretty straightforward. We get this key, get the Nightmare key, fight the mini-boss, and then we fight Moldorm. Moldorm is pretty annoying, but I think I didn't have many problems with Moldorm in this run. I actually don't quite remember. So I guess we'll both be in for a surprise here. Another thing I'd like to touch on is that it's hypothesized that Link's diagonal movement is actually... Oh, jeez, that was slightly disastrous. Anyway, it's hypothesized that Link's diagonal movement is actually a little bit slower than his regular cardinal directions. Oh, jeez. Yeah, this is not a great D1 anymore. Messing up all the easy stuff. And nailing all the hard stuff. Classic me. So you'll often see that when I jump, I try to make my jump as diagonal as possible, because it's supposedly a little bit faster to do that. Here's Moldorm. We start off with one spin slash, then we have to wait for his tail to open up again, and then we throw out another spin slash. You'll notice that I stayed pretty far away from Moldorm. Moldorm does 1 heart of damage, and I was at exactly 1 heart, so I really didn't want to risk a death there. And we grab this heart container and move on. So Dungeon 1 is now complete, and this is where the run starts to amp up. And when the run amps up, it really doesn't stop. there is pretty much a major glitch on every single split now ahead of us, so I hope you're excited to see some shenanigans. First, we do have this owl cutscene, and while there are a plethora of owl cutscenes, we actually skip a significant amount of them. So it's not really too bad. In general, this game doesn't have a ton of cutscenes. There are the cutscenes after every single dungeon completion, and then there are the song learning cutscenes, but that's about it for the most part. So you'll see I jumped up that slope and did a little diagonal movement with my jump, just to save a little bit of time. In general, jumping everywhere is not good, because jumping loses about 3 frames when you land. But in cases like that, I think you do actually lose more than 3 frames from going up the slope. So, we picked up this chicken. You may notice that the young boys of the town were alerting us of Bow Wow going missing, and trying to get us to do something. We're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to carry this chicken all the way over to this Like, who decided to be a troll this run. There I was deciding, okay. Anyway, you line up in a very specific position so that the chicken lands in between you and that phone booth, and when the Like spits you out, you rub against the chicken, and it shoots you onto the trees. It's kind of nuts. But yeah, now we're in Dungeon 2, and we didn't have to get Bow Wow. So that saves a pretty big chunk of time. It also means we don't have to return Bow Wow. So that's a pretty good time save for what's a relatively easy skip. Oh no, I forgot the key. Oh no, this run is really bad. I'm gonna lose so much time. As you can tell by my terrible acting, I skipped that key on purpose because we're gonna do kind of a crazy glitch. We're going to do what's known as a Hinox warp. If you watched my previous 100% commentary, I went over these quite a bit because there are a ton of Hinox warps in 100%. This run has 3, but I would argue that they are significantly harder than they are in 100% for different reasons. So first up, we have this Dungeon 2 Hinox warp. And Hinox warps are basically when the Hinox grabs Link, Link isn't actually moving to the hand per se, Link is teleporting to the hand. He's getting warped to the Hinox's hand. And if we can interrupt that warping on the frame that it happens, the game will sort of go wild and try to find where Link is supposed to be and sort of zip him, well, teleport him all around the map, and we end up in here. It's pretty crazy. So yeah, we finished Dungeon 2 already. We actually do have to re-enter to grab the bracelet, which is why I left that key behind. Because it doesn't really matter if we get it right away or when we come back. In fact, it's usually quite a bit faster to grab it when we're coming back inside. But yeah, Hinox warps are sort of an enigma. The first Hinox warp was found in a Reddit post very shortly after the game came out, and it was in Dungeon 7, and somebody randomly, with sheer 1 in 1 billion luck, managed to get a Hinox warp that warped them just to the end of Dungeon 7, randomly. And nobody has ever been able to recreate that setup. And either way, it wouldn't be RTA viable. But yeah, Hinox warps are pixel dependent and frame dependent, so they're pretty rough. The Dungeon 2 one is actually probably the easiest to perform, but there's another quirk with Hinox warps. Sometimes they are random. Specifically with this Dungeon 2 Hinox warp, the amount of time it takes for the Hinox to turn away from the wall is influenced by which direction he picks. So he'll take a shorter amount of time if he just goes to the right, and he'll take a longer amount of time if he goes to the down right. And if he goes to the down right, we get put onto the wall, and it's no good. There is actually one nuance that you can do a 1 in 4, where you do 2 Hinox warps in this dungeon. And it saves around 15 to 20 seconds if you have really, really good wall walking movement. Because it allows you to pick up this bracelet immediately, and then go back and get the instrument, and so you don't have to re-enter the dungeon, and the walking around is a little bit faster as well. I personally did not really want to deal with 1 in 4, so I went for the 1 in 2. So to continue the Hinox Warp explanation a little bit, yeah, basically the game just sort of teleports Link all around the map for a certain amount of time, that time sometimes being influenced by the throw angle, and at the end of the animation, Link will respawn wherever his last valid home tile was. And oftentimes, when you're doing a Hinox Warp without any setup, you'll often just void out and respawn right back in the Hinox room, because Link hits no valid tiles. Alright, so now we're gonna steal, but first we're gonna buy some bombs. Stealing in this game is actually pretty easy. You just grab the item and then walk down and do a little down right thing, and then you're out. It's got a little bit of a learning curve when you first try to do it, but it's not too hard to pick up. We do actually have to do somewhat specific movement when buying the bombs, just so we can manipulate the shopkeeper to allow us to do that quick steal. But you just have to make it so that the shopkeeper turns to when Link picks up the shovel. And now we're going to do our next big skip. This is Villa Skip. And Villa Skip allows us to skip the entire Canalet Castle side quest. Which saves tons of time. I don't actually know the exact number, but I think it's probably somewhere around 8 minutes. It's a lot. It might even be more, actually. It might be like 9. I don't know. It's been a while since I've done Canalet. But yeah, we get the slime key right away, and now we can just go straight to Dungeon 3 without having to deal with any of the Canalet Castle, Golden Leaf, stupidity. Also, additionally, I wanted to mention, I did forget to mention this earlier, the Dungeon 2 Hinox Warp specifically is good because it skips the genie fight, which is super, super slow, and it also is, it also skips a lot of walking around and grabbing chests and such. So even though we have to, like, re-enter and do all this stuff, it still saves, like, 2.5 minutes, I think, over doing it normally. Or it might just be 2. But yeah, it saves a lot of time. I think it is 2.5, though. But yeah, now we enter Dungeon 3. Dungeon 3 is a pretty cool dungeon. It's going to introduce us to a glitch that we're going to use quite extensively in this run, known as a bomb loon, which is basically using a bomb to just float randomly. When you're off like a ledge while holding a bomb, you can float and get onto the walls, and it's pretty wacky and allows us to do some crazy wacky things. Those keys can be quite a bit of a troll. Oh, additionally, actually, wait. Okay, never mind. That was a different run. So additionally, I had arrows equipped there because when you get that certain pattern, where that first bombmate walks to the up right or super far regular right, it's actually quicker to do that extra menu to equip the arrows. Alright, so here's our bomb loon. When you're holding a bomb and you just hop off this ledge, Link can just kind of float around on the ledge, and then you get onto these fences. This first one allows us to skip the Dodongo fight, which is pretty nice, as that fight takes a long time, is RNG based, is slow, is annoying, nobody likes that mini-boss. Alright, so we get the Pegasus boots immediately, and now we're gonna grab the Nightmare Key, and after we grab the Nightmare Key, we're just gonna go finish the dungeon. We're gonna do another one of those bomb loons, but this time we're also going to use it in conjunction with a bomb jump in order to skip all 4 of the key blocks. You can actually avoid doing the bomb jump, but you have to grab an extra key, and it ends up losing, like, I think people say generally 15 seconds. I feel like it's more than that, but 15 seconds is reasonable. I think that makes sense. I think it's like 25 though, but I could be wrong. So we do our next little bomb slide here. Bomb loon bomb slide. And we throw it. Okay. Pick it up, throw it again, and then right when it does the red flash, you charge your dash, jump, and voila. Skipped all of Dungeon 3. Unfortunately, because the dungeon is on separate floors like this, it's not really feasible, as far as we know, to skip the boss fight. And so actually, that's one of the rare cases where you want to pick up these power-ups. I forgot to talk about the power-ups earlier. It's a Link's Awakening unique mechanic. They have these pieces of power and the Guardian Acorn. Piece of power increases your regular slashing damage by 1, and it increases your movement speed, and the Guardian Acorn reduces the damage you take by 1. So grabbing the piece of power here actually allows us to skip a cycle here when we get this RNG, so I just kill the boss immediately. I think it only really saves 1 second when you're grabbing the piece of power, because it loses like 2 seconds for the animation to play as you pick it up, but it makes the boss significantly quicker. Actually, I do think it's more than 1, but it's around there. Probably like 2 or 3 seconds of time save. But yeah, that's Dungeon 3 completed. It wasn't perfect, but it was pretty darn good. I didn't make any major mistakes, so I was pleased with that. I think most of our owl cutscenes are actually after dungeons like this. Okay, so now we finished Dungeon 3, and we're going to head straight to Dungeon 4. If you've played this game casually before, you may also remember that there's another side quest. Wow, there are a lot of side quests before these dungeons to get into them. This one, for Dungeon 4, you typically go on a date with Marin, go to the animal village, wake up the walrus, get the key from Lan Mola, then go all the way back, and probably learn Marin's song along the way. We skip all of that, which saves a ton of time. And, oh, jeez. Okay, well that eliminates the time that I saved by doing the piece of power strat. Normally, when you don't do the piece of power strat, you intentionally take damage on that fight. And that avoids the, like, oh jeez, shaking animation that Link gets when Gigazole drops on the ground, and it avoids, and it makes Link, like, drop a little bit quicker. But since we didn't intentionally take damage, that acorn spawned a bit early, and I did not avoid it properly, which is unfortunate, but whatever. So anyway, we have a trick known as Angler Key Skip, which used to be kind of the bane of the existence because we actually had to manipulate this specific acorn to appear in order to do the trick. So we only had one shot at doing the trick, and if you failed, you would lose like 30 seconds. First, we're gonna grab some medicine, because it's essential for the very last Hinox Warp in the run. We actually need to die for that Hinox Warp. And of course, when you die, you lose, so we have to be revived, and the medicine revives you when you die. Funnily enough, fairies in a bottle do not revive you in this game, but the medicine does. So anyway, we found a new technique to do what's known as an air climb. Previously thought to only be possible with the acorn, or... that's unlucky, but also bad play on my part. Previously thought to only be doable with the acorn or with the rooster. We can now just get onto the invisible part of the ladder that extends upwards, and yeah. It's pretty crazy. We can just get into Dungeon 4. I have no idea why that works. But basically, you hold boots, fall off the ladder ledge, slash to cancel the falling animation. Oh, jumped pretty early there, or slashed pretty early there, and then late, and then I think this one succeeds you. So here's our next bomb win. But yeah, AK skip, done with the air jump, air climb, as I like to call it. Yeah, we do an air jump, and then it allows us to attach to the ladder, and then, yeah. It's a pretty broken trick, and it basically comprises most of the time save over world record. This new strat allows us to do a bunch of crazy stuff. Specifically after this dungeon, you'll see a pretty insane strat that I'm quite fond of. Shoutouts to Owen for finding it. But yeah, Dungeon 4 is pretty straightforward. We do another one of those bomb loons to get the Nightmare Key right away. That skips doing that puzzle right there. It skips having to deal with all that stuff when we re-enter Dungeon 4, because we're actually going to split Dungeon 4 into 2 trips. Guess what? Another side quest. After you beat Dungeon 4, there's a ghost that appears, and you have to sort of help the ghost find peace in the afterlife by taking them to all the little places that they remember, and it's quite a long side quest, and it ends up being faster to skip it and save it for later. And, well, not really save it for later, because the ghost only spawns once you pass a certain point on the map, a certain point, like, south of the map. I think as long as you're in, like, the upper third of the map, the ghost won't spawn. Because it's supposed to be like you're walking around and adventuring, and then it appears out of nowhere. So it doesn't feel as, like, forced, I guess. I don't know. So yeah, after we get the flippers, we're dipping out of Dungeon 4. And now you're like, okay, well, this seems pretty reasonable. I guess we'll go to Dungeon 5 next. Wrong! You're wrong. We're not going to Dungeon 5 next. We're going to Dungeon 6. And you're like, what? How do you get to Dungeon 6 without going to Dungeon 5? Don't you need the hookshot to go through the pit in the cave? Well, astute viewer, you do, but you actually don't, because you can do another air jump, air climb on this ladder, and get onto the collision of these walls, and travel all the way to the back door of Dungeon 6. Okay. This trick is super difficult. It's sort of the main run killer. Well, it's the second main run killer, but yeah, it's pretty tough because there are a lot of precise movements that you have to do. And as it turns out, this is kind of my proudest part of this run. I get this trick, like, third try. You saw I only failed on the ladder, like, twice, I think? And then I hit it right here. This saved about a minute and a half over my PB. And this trick saves a ton of time over the old route. Because it skips the entire Armos maze, it skips getting the key, it skips opening the dungeon, and it makes Dungeon 6 quicker, it makes getting to Dungeon 5 quicker. It just improves so much stuff. And yeah, this is such a wacky discovery, and I honestly have no clue how Owen is just, like, such a magician to be able to find this stuff. It's crazy. But yeah, now we're in Dungeon 6. And we entered through the back door, and if you'll recall from earlier, I specifically specified that when you autoload, you go to the entrance that you entered from, not specifically the intended entrance. So, oh my god, I forgot that I failed there. That's actually not super hard. Oh yeah, also these stairs are crazy, and Link just flies for some reason. That's like not a hard thing to do at all. You can just like walk up and rub up against those stairs, and you'll float into the air. You can do it in a casual playthrough. It's dumb. I'm actually going to be a little bit off the screen so that I skip some of these screen transitions and just go right to the end. And then I'm going to do it again here because we have to go diagonally. And then we go down one more, and boom, that's the bracelet immediately. And we also got the 100 rupees, and we're going to get another 100 rupees. And if you'll remember, we got 100 rupees in the Dream Shrine, so that gives us 300 rupees. So we have enough money to buy the Frog Song, which allows us to get the Rooster, which is required to beat the game. So yeah, when we auto-load, we just go straight back to where we were, and we can do the skip right again and go to the end of the dungeon. It's pretty nuts. This is actually, I think, my favorite dungeon in the run now, specifically because of these strats. I think it's super, super cool that you get to do this bomb loon twice. You get to, oh, I actually messed up there. Yeah, I didn't skip the screen transition. So you can see how, what I did the first time is a little bit quicker. I got a little bit nervous there. Yeah. I think I was quite a bit nervous because I did so well on the Dungeon 6 backdoor. It's quite a new trick, so we're not really used to doing it in runs yet, and it's also a pretty hard trick. But yeah, it saves a ton of time. And it's really basically the sole reason I was able to get record here. But yeah, there's Dungeon 6 done in about 2 minutes. While also getting 200 rupees inside Dungeon 6. Yeah, it's pretty nuts. So here's our next owl cutscene, and as you can see, we never actually opened Dungeon 6, so Link just kind of steps out of nothing there. There's actually a little funny thing you can do. If you have Bow Wow, Bow Wow will be positioned perfectly, so it looks like Link is exiting Bow Wow's mouth. It's pretty silly. Oh jeez, I accidentally ran into the Zora there. That lasted probably like half a second-ish. But yeah, now we just run straight to Dungeon 5, and we go and beat Dungeon 5. Dungeon 5 is a pretty straightforward dungeon. We actually do it, pretty much vanilla all the way up until the last Master Stalfos fight. The mini-boss of this dungeon, I guess it's technically not the mini-boss of this dungeon, but pretty much the mini-boss of this dungeon, Master Stalfos, the guy who carries around the hookshot throughout the dungeon, sort of torments you, and you have to fight him 4 times, and it's pretty annoying. But on the last time we fight him, when he drops the hookshot, we can actually abuse the physics and collision of the hookshot to get it to launch us onto the wall. It's one of my favorite glitches in this game, just because of how goofy it looks. So I'm excited to show it to you guys soon. But yeah, most of this dungeon, the optimization comes from... Well, actually, this first room right here with all the keys, you have to get kind of lucky. And then the rest of it kind of comes from doing the Master Stalfos fights well. You want to time your bomb placements such that there's like very, very little delay in between each press, and you also want to kill him so that you're super close to the door once you're done with the fight, so that you can just like leave immediately afterward. Here's fight number 2. So, one interesting thing to note, actually 2 interesting things to note. There are 2 other tricks than the one I use in this run. One of them I don't think has been replicated, and that is getting onto the walls in the first Master Stelthos fight. Actually, I don't even know if they got all the way onto the walls, but I think they clipped in and they rose up. Maybe they did get to the top of the walls. I don't know. But yeah, I think Owen did. But that has not been replicated by anyone. I don't think even Owen has been able to replicate it the way that he did it the first time. So that's not really a viable option for speedruns, obviously, if only one person has ever done it one time. But that would definitely make hookshot skip worth it. And the next thing to note is that you can actually do a variation of this trick that I'm about to do, where you grab... That's pretty unlucky. Oh well, it happens. It loses like 2 seconds. There's a variation of this trick you can do where you actually grab the hookshot while you're flying into the air with it. And that basically allows you to not have to re-enter the dungeon to get the hookshot. And then a third thing to note is we can actually skip the hookshot right now. The only thing we need it for is to get outside of the sign maze. But leaving the sign maze requires a very, very precise bomb jump. And it doesn't end up saving that much time, so we haven't really been going for it yet. But it might be implemented soon. So yeah, that's Dungeon 5 done. Skips the entire boss, skips getting the boss key. Skips quite a lot of traveling around in this dungeon. Yeah, pretty good. Dungeon 5 has probably one of the most annoying Zelda bosses of all time, so it's really nice that we get to skip him in this category. But yeah, as mentioned before, we do have to re-enter to grab the hookshot. So, for the most part, you know, we've been doing things mostly in order, you know, splitting some dungeons in half. We did do Dungeon 6 before Dungeon 5. So surely, you know, we'll probably do Dungeon 7 next, right? Wrong again. I can't believe you keep failing on this. Come on, guys. You gotta keep up better. No, we're actually doing Dungeon 8 first. There's a trick known as Flame Cave Skip. We used to do it only with the Rooster. Now we have the air jump, air climbs, and we can do it just with human, but we still have to get Rooster, because Rooster is mandatory to get the key that opens Dungeon 7. I also just completely ignored that little optimization. You can clip into the loading zone for the other whirlpool there. Okay, I pressed X instead of Y somehow. And yeah, that allows you to skip swimming all the way around again. So it's pretty quick. Stuff like that is why Mambo is not very quick at all in this category. If you don't know, Mambo's Mambo is the song that you can get right next to Dungeon 4, and it allows you to just like play a song and warp to any warp point on the map. But we really don't have to do any warping at all in this category. The route just sort of works out super nicely like that. So this is the sign maze. You have to talk to all of these signs in a specific order. And then that gives you access to... Yeah, that was pretty slow. Normally you can make that, but I just went slightly slow with talking to the sign and stuff there. Nice flick back. Geez, it's so much harder to commentate this compared to 100%, just because of how fast-paced this run is. I don't have a ton of time to explain everything as it happens. But yeah, Flame Cave Skip is coming up. And that trick allows us to access Dungeon 8 before Dungeon 7. It allows us to skip needing the Mirror Shield, which wouldn't be super slow to grab anyway. But it also skips a Marin cutscene when you're traveling from Dungeon 7 to Dungeon 8. And it also just, in terms of movement, ends up working out a lot nicer than going to Dungeon 7 first. The way the map kind of flows, it actually just makes more sense to go to Dungeon 8 first. I do want to apologize for briefly talking over that amazing choir of frogs. So we get the frog song, which is mandatory because it allows us to revive the rooster and it allows us to get into Dungeon 8. We do actually have a way of getting into Dungeon 8 without the frog song, but the rooster is still mandatory for the run, like I mentioned earlier. A lot of people have really been trying to find ways to avoid getting the rooster completely now, because not getting the rooster would allow us to skip the frog song, skip the sign maze, and skip this rooster cutscene. It would be a pretty big chunk of time save, so that's kind of the next step in Link's Awakening speedrunning, I think, is skipping this rooster. It does have one consequence, that we do have to go through the caves a bit more in Tal Tal Heights, but I think that's probably fine. We'll probably find some way around it if we ever do find a rooster skip. But for now we need the rooster, and the rooster still ends up being a valuable companion to us, even though we can do air climbs all on our own. So there's Marin's song. Not quite as good as the frog song, but decent enough. So yeah, this is kind of... I think it is the longest split in the run, and it's also the most cutscene heavy. Because you have to do all those song cutscenes, and the rooster cutscene, and we have to do the reviving Turtle Rock cutscene. There's quite a bit, but it's also got some fun movement in it too. So here comes Flame Cave Skip. You do an air climb up this ladder. I think I actually flub it up. Yeah. So I don't get it first try, which is a little bit disappointing, but it didn't lose us that much time. But yeah, you just sort of jump up this way, slide there, boom, you're in. We used to just do that with the rooster. And it's still like a similar amount of time to do it with the rooster, but well, it would be a similar amount of time to do it with the rooster, but you have to wait for the rooster to get there, so it ends up just being faster to do it alone. Okay, I did take a hit there, which I think made me like really nervous on this fight, yeah, because Turtle Rock does 2 damage. I think he has the highest damage output out of everybody here. Yeah, so you'll notice that I'm playing it like super safe on this fight. Why did I jump to the right there though? I don't know. But yeah, I managed to avoid a death. Yeah, I didn't get like any double spin slashes though, which I guess I should talk about double spin slashes now. So yeah, that was kind of a slow fight, plus the Flame Cave Skip mistake, so not a perfect segment, but it was pretty decent overall. I've had much worse before. Now for Dungeon 8. This is the shortest dungeon in the game. How did I mess that up? Okay, so this is a little mistake that I actually do twice, and that mistake right there ends up having big consequences later. I'll let you guys see. See, that's how you do it. I honestly don't know why the other 2 failed. I think I must have been like slashing early or something. I don't know. I honest to God never have that fail in practice, but you know, you get on your best run ever and then stupid stuff like that starts to happen. But yeah, first try Hinox Warp here. That's a frame perfect Hinox Warp. It does always warp you to the correct location though, so that's good. Yeah, that's Dungeon 8. That's all of Dungeon 8. We don't need the Magic Rod or anything, so we're done here. That's also one of my favorite dungeons, because you complete it immediately, and it's so silly. But yeah, that Hinox Warp is frame perfect, but it only has one frame that works. So if you miss it, it can actually be quite disastrously if you miss it by going early, because you end up taking the full bomb arrow damage, which is 2 hearts. But yeah, so I didn't get any hearts here. Normally I would do a bomb clip to clip into the back there. That wall right there, you can clip inside with the rooster if you take a bomb clip damage. I took a half heart there, which is like whatever. And then we've got these boulders. Yep. Probably the biggest blemish on this run. That lost me about 45 seconds, and it still frustrates me thinking about it. In hindsight, I probably could have played that a bit safer. But yeah, losing that half a heart to the imp in that first room made it so that I couldn't do the bomb clip there. And the bomb clip avoids dealing with these boulders entirely. I mean, it's just stupid. These boulders are dumb. Yeah, so that's sort of the biggest major time loss in the run, I think. Trying to think of other stuff. I don't think there was anything else that was big like that. Oh, actually there were a couple of things, but nothing that was quite that big. And that was really disappointing when that happened. That, like, completely hampered my morale. I was starting to have doubts about my gameplay. I was like, oh my god, can I really do this? I should have went so much safer there. Blah, 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 blah. But I decided to just keep calm, carry on, because I know it can still record. I know we can still do this. I know it can still 58 even, so we've gotta put our best effort in. Even though we lost a silly amount of time to something that was half in my control, half in the game's control, I think it's something that is definitely valid to blame the game for, but I still can't help but blame myself for that mistake. Because it's like, if I didn't get hit by the imp, that never would have happened. I would have just done the bomb clip and been done with it. Oh well. Oh geez, I missed that. That's a little silly. But yeah, we do this air climb here, and this skips some of the caves because it allows you to just like fly into the wall here. And that's like the one necessary air climb in the run. Or necessary rooster air climb, I should say. But yeah, now we're in Dungeon 7. That segment, honestly, like, besides the death, was good. Like, I didn't mess up anything, it's just the death lost us so much time. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know. That death makes me want to do more runs, but also this category is super draining for me, just because it's really hard. But yeah. Maybe I'll do more attempts at some point. But for now, I kind of want to move on. But this is Dungeon 7, the scariest dungeon in the game. This dungeon has the Dungeon 7 Hinox Warp. It is the scariest Hinox Warp in the game, which is why this is the scariest dungeon in the game. It's similar to Dungeon 8 in that it's frame perfect. You have only one single frame to get this trick. Additionally, it has not as good a visual cue as Dungeon 8. Additionally, if you mess up, you lose minutes. So it's, yeah, it's pretty dumb. You also have to do the skew, which is not that hard, but I think I was nervous or something, so I was messing it up quite a bit there. Also, I think most any percent runners in general are just cursed to have their worst skew times be their one that gets the instant warp. But yeah, there are a multitude of warps you can get with this one because you die. You can get warp to the instrument room. There are 2 frames that are the boss room, and all the other ones suck. Boss room warp loses like a minute and a half. All the other ones lose like also about a minute and a half, probably 2 minutes. And instrument warp is the optimal one. It means you beat the dungeon in under a minute and a half. And we got it. I was super happy when this happened because I had a ton of runs. Well, not a ton. I had like 2 or 3 runs get to this point. And all of them died to this trick. I would just get nervous, and I would screw up, I would go early, I would go... Actually, a lot of the times I would go late. And early is actually better because it at least allows you to continue your run immediately. Late means you get ballroom, and so you have to try again, and hope you get instrument, and it's frustrating. It's a really, really hard dungeon, but we were able to do it here. So that's another good part of this run. Oh! Yeah, there's also this. I had my worst Tektite luck ever. He owned me. I try to do the thing. He owns me again as I fall down, so then I kill him. And I still can't do it for some reason, and then we do it. That lost me like a stupid amount of time. It was like 20 seconds. I don't think that was all of the time. I think that was like 10, 11, 12 seconds. And then I also had a bit of a bad boss fight here in Dungeon 4. But yeah, that was just silly. I think if this segment tied my gold, which is not like super hard to do, this would have been a 57. But oh well, shoulda, woulda, coulda. Very improvable run. But also, I'm pretty proud of this, to be honest. Despite the fact that it's improvable, and I have no doubts that somebody will beat this in the near future. I'm happy with this, and I don't know. I feel satisfied with this game. I feel like I've been playing decently well lately. But yeah, here's the anglerfish. Oh yeah, that air jump air climb that I was doing there, where the Tektite was trolling me, that skips 2 loading zones and it allows you to dash, which ends up saving around 8 seconds. But yeah, now it's time for this boss fight. See, I missed the spin slash there because I accidentally jabbed my sword in, so it created some issues. Yeah, just a terrible boss fight. So I was actually not going to grab the heart container here. Oh yeah, that's actually the bigger time loss too. I grabbed this heart container because I was only at 3 hearts, and you can definitely do Nightmare with only 3 hearts. But I was nervous, so I grabbed it. I didn't want to throw this run away, I guess. So I chose to do a little bit of a safety strat there. But yeah, that's all of the dungeons in Link's Awakening completed, and now it's time to do the final boss. So because we don't have Monbo's Mambo, we have to go through this tunnel again, but it's still much faster not to grab the song, because the cutscene is pretty long to learn the song. It is kind of a banger, but oh well. Whoops. Not the most perfect movement there, but good enough. Ah, jeez, I missed the ladder. I was trying to do an up left slash there to latch onto the ladder. So now we get to play the song to open the egg and, yeah, start to conclude this run. Oh, one thing I should touch on, I forgot to mention this earlier, just because there's so many other huge tricks. Sorry, you won't be able to hear the song over me talking. So, sort of one of the things we do before the run is RNG manipulation. And that sets our egg pattern. And it allows us to skip the trade quest completely, skip reading the book to learn our egg pattern. Because it's random every time. But we can manipulate based on the amount of seconds after the switch starts from like a fresh boot after being shut down, and also we can manipulate it based on going into like naming Link and then going back out and then going in. to reach like a new page of seeds. So the seed I'm using is seed 36, which is waiting 36 seconds. And then 2, which means re-rolling the seeds once. And so that gives me a cool little egg path of right, up, left, up, 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 which is commonly referred to as Rulu. But yeah, so I already know my egg patterns, so we don't have to worry about me failing in here or something. We can just head straight to the boss fight. And it's a pretty... Rulu, I think, is the current most optimal seed, as far as anyone knows, because you get these straight lines, like, all the way through. But I mean, it's really just a matter of seconds, to be honest. It's not, like, super, super important. But now begins the final fight. This fight has a ton of phases, each one having its own unique gimmick. The first one is sort of a Zol phase, you have to use powder on it to do damage. The second is Aghanim, and Aghanim is actually the one that I want to talk about the most. Aghanim works similarly to how he does in A Link to the Past, but not completely the same. So it still has the mechanic of blue balls and orange balls. Blue balls being the ones that you don't want, and orange balls being the ones that you can reflect back at Aghanim. When he starts, he will always shoot an orange ball, so I can just sort of mash slash on him. And then for the next one, I wait for 3, like, arm shakes, and then I jump and slash. And so that way, I jump over the blue ball if it shoots out. And so it's a 50-50 between an orange and a blue ball, but no one result can be repeated 3 times in a row. So there's a maximum of 9 blue balls, assuming you hit all of your orange balls. And there's also a minimum of 1 blue ball, because you have to hit them 4 times. Next is the Moldorm phase, pretty easy, you just have to land some spin flashes here. And then next is Ganon phase. This is probably the most mechanically difficult of the phases. You have to do 2 spin slashes there, and then boom, do that. And that specific strat is why I grabbed that heart container. Sometimes you can take 2 damage there, and so even with 3 hearts, it's like, okay, well 2 damage, that's fine, that's not a big deal. But I don't know, I was just anxious. But with 6 hearts, I mean, my worries are pretty much completely removed. Once you have enough experience with the game, it's pretty rare to take like a ton of damage. I think some people do a strat that specifically almost always takes 2 hearts of damage on Ganon. So usually you'll only be taking around like 1 to 2 hearts. And then this is another kind of cool part. I actually got like really good eye RNG in this run. He opened his eye really quickly, like all the time. And that's the final phase. You just shoot arrows into his eye. Unfortunately, in this remake, the boomerang does not kill him instantly, which is annoying, but also we wouldn't have the boomerang anyway. I just lament about that commonly because 100% gets the boomerang and they don't get to use it. But yeah, there we go. Link's Awakening completed in 58:16. I hope you guys all enjoyed watching this. I had a lot of fun doing this run. And while it's not perfect, I'm actually pretty proud of it. I'm happy to finally get a sub 1. But yeah, I don't know. This game is very near and dear to my heart. And I've been playing it for like 3 years now. I think almost exactly 3 years, actually. I think I started playing in March of 2020. And I don't think I never really expected to get to this point with the game. I always wanted to be good, and I always cared about 100%, and I always wanted to have 100% record, but lately I've just been playing well with the glitches and stuff, and I don't know, I'm super pleased with how I've been playing, and this record is improvable, and somebody else will beat it, and I don't plan on playing this game as much as I have been for the past 3 years anymore. I actually plan on moving on to a different Zelda game, and taking that game seriously. And I don't know why I'm getting like kind of emotional right now. It's just weird watching this cutscene that I've watched so many times, while also talking about my past and like nostalgia and all that stuff. But you know, I don't know. I'm super pleased, and I love this game, and I'm excited to see where people take the record. And I encourage you, if you're watching this video and the record is outdated, check out the newest record, whether it's by me or anybody else. There's so many people who are capable of getting it, and I believe in all of them. I don't know. I love this game, I love this community. And I'm sorry that the commentary wasn't like super good. It's kind of hard to fit in everything that I want to say in under an hour. Any percent is such a short category now, and I have no doubts that it'll be even shorter eventually. As I mentioned during the run, there are actually a couple of time saves. For instance, the 1 and 4 warp, if we can get consistent new D5 skip, and yeah, I don't know. There are a couple things that are still in the works. A rooster skip would be great too. I don't know. I'm super happy. Things have just kind of been on the up and up for me, and yeah. I'm gonna let credits play. What else do I have to say? I don't know. There are silly time losses that make me kind of want to improve this record on my own, but I think I might just let it sit and let somebody else take the reins again. I'm just happy to have achieved a run like this at some point. And while there were silly things, it was mostly solid. I think I'm just going in circles now, so thank you all for watching. Thank you everybody who supports me. The 100% videos have been getting quite a bit of recognition on YouTube, actually, which makes me very happy, because I care about this game a lot, and it's cool to see that other people care about it too. So yeah, thank you for watching. I will see you guys in the next thing I do. I don't think I'm completely done with this game yet. I still want to get back the No Hinox Warp record, and maybe do a few glitchless runs or something while I'm still learning this next Zelda game, but I don't know if I'm going to be taking this game as seriously anymore. Who knows? Maybe I'll be back at some point. I do tend to come back after breaks just because this game has sort of magnetic appeal, but yeah. Thanks for watching, thanks for supporting me, and make sure to support other runners if you're seeing this for the first time. Alright, peace out.